If you don't believe in someone, don't fucking hire them. In sales and the cold calling, high velocity world, there's a lot of failure. If you don't have these things, it just won't work in building a high velocity machine. How do you determine whether they truly are hardworking or not? You can't just ask someone, hey, Riley, are you a hard worker?
What's up, guys? I'm Riley Soward, co-founder of Orbital. Welcome to the Vertical SaaS Go-to-Market Playbook. Really excited to have Butch Hodson on the show today. Butch, honestly, is one of the most legit folks I've met since founding Orbital. He originally started his career and actually was one of the top, I think it was #1 sales rep out of 150 sales reps at his first gig out of college. And since then has gone on to lead go-to-market teams at many different vertical SaaS companies that we'll be chatting about today. And even now today actually is the VP of sales at Sellfire, which actually is fully focused on helping level up and coach go-to-market teams for high velocity sales. So exactly our sweet spot. And I think, Butch, over your career, you probably coached 10,000 plus different folks. In addition to actually writing a book that we have here at the office, Sales Lab Scripting,
Awesome.
which is all
Great
about,
looking book.
It's awesome, which is all about high velocity sales. So Butch, we're really excited to have you on the show today. We're going to be really focused on one of your top areas, which I know you work on a lot at Sellfire, which is hiring, training, coaching, firing, all things about building a kick-ass go-to-market team. So thanks for joining the show today.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for having me. I was super pumped when you told me about this podcast and really excited to be a part of it. I do have to correct you. That was an amazing intro. It was really awesome. There's one correction in there.
Let's hear it.
No college.
No college. Okay.
No college. I did have sales experience prior to Profit Fuel. I was selling cars straight out of high school, wheeling and dealing, worked my way up in the car industry, and life took me in an alternate path where I'd moved up fast in the car business, was not happy, wanted to find a company that I was just passionate about coming to work every day, and I had a product that I was proud of and decided to start all over, and that's how I came to work for Profit Fuel. But no college.
Even better.
That was not for me.
I totally get it. Why? I would have known that if I actually even looked up your full background. I tried to find as much as I could online about you. Obviously, we've been
that's hard.
Friends for a while, but out of curiosity, why no LinkedIn and why just like it seems like a pretty minimal online presence.
Oh man, you are gonna get me in a lot of trouble at work. So no social I'm off the radar from a social presence, which I would not recommend to anybody who's trying to be really successful.
I was gonna say you're writing a book and even finding information about your.
I know. Don't listen to me. So from a business perspective, you should network. You should be on LinkedIn. You should be building your network and expanding your knowledge. Social media for me, I just made a decision a long time ago not to be on it. I have an alternate path. Fortunate for me, I'm very blessed. I've found a way to be successful without it, which is a unicorn in our day and age. You will not find,
especially in go-to-market and I like Sellfire.
Trust me, they ask me every day to go ahead and build one, and I'm confident that is a really good thing. Just long story short, it's hard to be really dedicated in your line of work where you're giving a lot, you're traveling, you're putting in long hours. There's only so much capacity in a day. And then when you're married and you're fully dedicated to that marriage, and then you have 4 children, life comes at you really fast. So social media is just one less thing if I have to keep up with or follow or know or keep track of and respond and whatnot. There's massive benefits business-wise. Just one less thing that I decided. There's only certain things I decided to focus on. Social media wasn't one of them, but I do recommend it.
Yeah, for us, it's honestly been, it's today our #1 lead source is the content that Andy and I have been posting on LinkedIn.
100%.
But no, thanks for the correction. I think even better that you didn't go to college, and I think you're a career salesperson. So let's dive in. I think for today's topic, we're going to basically start by talking about I mean, it's all things around hiring, training, and firing and onboarding reps. So we'll start just by talking about hiring. Yeah, I'm really curious, like, there's a million questions I'd love to talk about as regards with regards to hiring, but I think the first is just when you're hiring and kind of building a go-to-market team, what are like the top 3 attributes you're typically looking for in a new sales rep?
Yeah, so this is really critical. When hiring, you're really looking for a hiring profile, and I think this is where companies can often get it wrong. And it's not just hiring to a profile, it is how do you determine if that profile is correct? For example, you could say you want someone that's really hardworking. Well, in the interview process, how do you determine whether they truly are hardworking or not? You can't just ask someone, "Hey, Riley, are you a hard worker?"
Yeah.
You're going to get an obvious answer. So it's like, how do you get to the real answers of that? But the main characteristics that I think all companies should look for when hiring salespeople for high velocity motion, really the first and foremost is work ethic. I look for intangibles, things that you cannot teach. Sales, for example, is very teachable. You can teach sales. I dedicated my whole career to that. Sales and closing and setting appointments and being a professional in day to day and cold calling and running demos and closing, like that is a skill that you can teach. What we look for is what are the things you can't teach. And work ethic is one. Work ethic comes within. That is an intangible. So high work ethic. The other one would be, which is common, thrown out there a lot today, but is growth mindset. A lot of people say, hey, we're looking for someone with a growth mindset, but what does that actually mean? Yeah. In a high velocity world, especially when you're doing a lot of outputs, a lot of cold calling and outreach, growth mindset is critical. To me, growth mindset is I can take failure, and instead of being frustrated and down in the dumps and woe is me, I can have a growth mindset of saying, hey, every failure I have, I use it as a learning opportunity to get better. And guess what? In sales and in the cold calling, high velocity world, there's a lot of failure, which we'll touch on probably a little bit more in a little bit. So having a growth mindset is that positive mindset that every day I'm looking to get better. There's going to be learning opportunities. So growth mindset is critical. The other one is coachability. I went back to like, hey, you can teach skills, you can teach sales. You can't teach it to someone that's not coachable. So if someone's not willing to learn new things, it makes it very difficult, which, we'll talk about this in a little bit as well as far as having a sales process. But if you have a proven sales process and you're onboarding a new hire and you're hiring, that person has to be willing to maybe forget some of the things that they were taught previously if that conflicts with what you're teaching them, and be coachable throughout. And a lot of people are kind of sometimes with previous experience stuck in their ways. So you need to have someone that is extremely coachable all the time. And not only are these intangibles, to me, these characteristics of work ethic, growth mindset, and coachability, these are what I also call non-negotiables. If you don't have these things, it just won't work in building a high velocity machine. Now the last one, just to kind of give you a bonus one, is, so those are like the 3 pillars, right? Having work ethic, growth mindset, and coachability. But the last one is competitiveness. To me, like, you want salespeople that are highly competitive. Keep in mind, you could be humble and be competitive. You could be a good person and not arrogant and be competitive. For me, it's just competitiveness is something within that says, you know what, even if it's not competitive with other people who are extremely competitive are competitive with themselves. They're constantly wanting to break their own sales records, push themselves, get better. That's in conjunction with the growth mindset. But like, competitiveness is just something that's that inner fire within.
Yeah, and we've definitely seen that with our sales team as well at Orbital, and with a lot of the customers we work with. I'm really curious, so makes sense at a high level. In an interview process, how do you actually gauge these things? Because as you said, they are things that are, we're talking about salespeople here, right? These are folks who are naturally very good at coming across in a compelling manner and probably are thinking about showcasing these things. So what's sort of the foolproof way, if there even is one, to track these in an interview process?
Well, nothing in life is 100% foolproof. I've interviewed many salespeople in my career, and there's going to be some that slip through the cracks, and sometimes life circumstances changes and people change, and you can hedge your bets, so to speak. So there's a great book, Patrick Lencioni, that wrote 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. He actually wrote another book called The Ideal Team Player. And they have a bunch of free information on this too. I believe their website is the Table Group. But like the ideal team player, they talk about actually like even towards the end of the book of questions and scenario-based questions that you can ask. I like putting people on the spot versus, where they have to tell a story and recall something really quickly. So like if you're wanting to figure out, okay, how competitive is a person? You can't ask a question like, "Hey, Riley, tell me,
Tell me about a time you're competitive."
Yeah, that's a little bit too generic. I would make it really specific. I would say, tell me about a time you were competitive is okay if they give you a really detailed response. I would probably lead it a little differently of like, "Hey, Riley, think of a time in your personal life or professional life that like something that we're looking for is ultimate competitors, competing to win, constantly getting better, breaking their own records, like pushing themselves to a higher limit, and like really just wanting it for themselves and just competing." Think of your life of like, what would be some good examples that you showed your true nature of like how competitive you are. Give me a few examples of that, not just one, give me a few, and tell me a little bit about why those moments were so important to you. What did you do to really embrace that competitive nature? Tell me a few examples about that. And it's not about necessarily the story that they're saying, although that's a part of it. How quickly can they process that? If someone's really competitive in their life and they wanted something, they went after it, they'll recall it really fast. Yeah. So people who are, full of it, they're like, well, let me think of a time. Well, there's this time when I was in T-ball and like, or there's this time when we were doing this and that. And like, one, the story might not be too compelling, but two, like they're taking a while to drum something up. Like if something was really important to them that they put in the work that mattered to them, that's real competition. They can usually recall it pretty quickly.
What do you think? I mean, because from at least my experience hiring like at Orbital and at past companies, I feel like you can only get so far with some of these, like, tell me about a time or just these conversations. Like, one thing we've done at Orbital is definitely more, a homework assignment. In one case, like, go book a meeting for Orbital or come in and put together, like, actually come, pitch Orbital, and then we test in that conversation. If we push them and, like, not just objection handling, but, like, how do they handle pressure? How do they handle, scenarios we can kind of put them under? I'm curious when it comes to high velocity sales. What do you think of either these types of awesome. Live role plays or homework assignments?
Homework is awesome. Live role plays are critical. Live role plays. So homework is part of the competitiveness. If they really want something, they're competitive, they're going to put in the work and prep to really want to nail that assignment for the interview. But what I love about live role plays is you get a little bit of what they're going to sound like to your customers. So, what we've done historically is also we'll give them kind of a sample script. We'll give them the assignment. We'll give them a little bit of time to prep, and then we'll start doing live role plays and firing away. And you don't expect them to be perfect, right? There's only so much you can do without proper training and expectations and all that. But you can see a little bit, how quick of a thinker are they? Do they have really active listening skills? You're going to give them hints and clues in that live role play. And do they pay attention to that? Are they taking notes? Do they mention what you say? Are they picking up on those things? Those are little intangible things that can tell you a lot in a live role play. I'm a big fan of, one, giving homework, giving them a little prep work. If they're not willing to do that, then what indicator is that of all the work that they're going to need to put in to be great at the job in the future? But two, get them uncomfortable. A live role play in an interview is uncomfortable, and it's hard and it's nerve-wracking. But that is a live environment that replicates and simulates what it's like to talk to a real customer in a live situation as well.
Do you have a go-to homework assignment, especially when you're thinking about, at Sellfire, you guys are constantly hiring or helping customers hire, and it's specifically high velocity roles, which I'm guessing are pretty high turnover as well. Like, when you're thinking about scaling this, like, is there like a go-to homework assignment you guys have?
Typically, it is we prep them for a role play, or we'd give them a sample script, or even like a scenario that, hey, during this call, we're going to do X, Y, or Z type of role play. And then we basically give them a situation. You're a sales rep for Whole Foods, and or you're a distributor, you're selling water bottles. Here's the scenario, here's the customer, and like you're giving some hints. Then you're like, all right, now let's do it. Go. Here's the scenario. Here's what we do, and then like we role play back and forth. I think scripting role plays are really critical and important too, because if you give someone a sample script to kind of prep for, I just need to hear how natural they sound. Man, if someone sounds like they're reading and just really struggles to sound personable, this is your everyday job. This is what you're literally going to be doing all day, every day. You have to be able to use a sales process but sound natural and enthusiastic and confident. And yeah, you're not going to master that based on a homework assignment, but you should be able, you get a glimpse at how people are going to sound to your customers through their tonality, and are they a personal person? There's some people that can just, they're sociable. They can carry a conversation. You can get a glimpse of that in a role play, versus someone who's like, hi Riley, my name is Butch Hodson,
Right.
and today I'm calling you in regards like, oh, okay, this person cannot sound very natural when using a process. Even though that's something that can be worked on, they obviously didn't practice it.
Cool. This makes sense as a framework. As you start to do this at scale, I mean, I know in one case in your career, you actually scaled from 5 reps to 400 reps in 2 years? I'm really curious, like, how do you actually scale a process like this, and from both like sourcing candidates as well as just the execution of that? I'm guessing you guys must have been interviewing, tens or hundreds of people a week.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have, we could really go long on this subject. I think that would be a whole podcast just in the hiring alone. Really, you got to have a really detailed process of weeding out candidates as well too early on. So typically it's going to start with a very quick screening call. And that screening call is just could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, and it's pretty quick. And you're just kind of weeding through some of the obvious no's to then get to a first round. And then first round, you got to have a kind of a dedicated plan of what you're trying to accomplish in that plan. Typically, it's a get to know you. Let's talk about your experience. Let's talk about this job and role and expectations. And then you're jumping to a second round that is more role play, homework based. But yeah, when you're doing mass hiring, you got to have a team of people. And you also got to have dedicated people that are just doing that nonstop. For example, this is something we could also talk about, but like, companies make mistakes by having sales leaders do the interviews because, hey, they should hire their own people and they should be a part of the interview process. No, get sales leaders out of the interview process. They should be focused on coaching the reps and crushing sales goals. You should have a dedicated group of people that can go through the interview process.
And like specifically recruiters or like someone in that role, basically, is that what you've seen the most success with?
Yeah, someone in that role.
Yeah. There's like a million questions or topics we could talk about in hiring, but I do think we should transition to talking about once you make that hire, what it looks like. So that really brings us to the onboarding stage. So awesome, we've gone and hired someone that has work ethic, hustle, and is like very coachable. What do you typically see the most success with? I know at Sellfire you guys are constantly ramping new reps. Like, what does that sort of first 90-day playbook look like?
Yeah, so high level, one, the biggest thing that you need is you need a proven sales process before you're going to onboard reps. Some of the mistakes that we see are really with startup companies is, hey, we did the founder-led thing and saw some success. Now we're going to hire a couple SDRs or a couple AEs without like a really proven process. So we wrote a lot about this process in Sales Lab scripting, but as long as you have a proven sales process, then you can get really detailed in the onboarding. So for me, the first 2 weeks has got to be, one, high level, you need to have a very detailed plan for onboarding. Not a high level, like in the first week, we're gonna do X, Y, Z. I mean like first 15 days of training, hour by hour, every day of like, what are they doing? What are they learning? What are we training to? And you got to do it in stages. So high level, I'd say the first 2 weeks is all product knowledge. Like undervalued is that sales reps need to be extreme product experts to know all the ins and outs of the industry and competitors and whatnot. Spend extra time in there. But if you're doing a few days of like high level, like product training, company culture, sales process, usually by day 5 or 6, you could start part-time getting on the phones to do some calling. So you want a couple days of, hey, these are full days dedicated to training, morning till end of day, not like really big intake sessions. Then you want to start out gradually with not just releasing new hires to be on the phones full time. Start them out part-time, couple hours cold calling. Always do role play sessions before they get on the phones full time. So if I had to like give you an idea of like the first 2 weeks of a new hire, first few days, all like classroom type of work. By day 4, maybe they're doing a little bit of half classroom, half live role plays within the group or within the trainer. By day 5 or 6, that's when you're breaking up the days into half day calling, and then half day, let's listen to those calls and break down and rehearse. And you'll basically go that for the next week or so, where you're doing like not full-time calling, half day calling, half day, let's kind of break it down. By day 30, I would say after the first 2 weeks, you should be able to transition to full-time calling, but keep them in the classroom environment. Meaning when you're onboarding a new hire, once they like, hey, let's say by the second week or after the second week, they're ready to dial full-time. Don't just go throw them on a sales team around other salespeople. I would keep them in their classroom environment for a minimum of 30 days. Let them be around other new hires, learn and pick up things before they get thrown to the floor and start learning other things that weren't in the classroom. And then you could, part of that 30 days is really first 2 weeks, you're kind of graduating to then the second 2 weeks of the 30 days to be really dialing full time. But there's got to be a certification process, meaning before you leave training in that 30 days and then end up moving to a team, what are you testing your new hires on to be certified to graduate from training to the floor? You want it enough where it's like they're putting a lot of work in the onboarding experience to get trained on the cold call script, get trained on the demo, get trained on the make sell flow or objection handling, get trained on the tech stack, give some certification tests where they're knowledgeable and everything. You feel really good that you can put them on a team full time and they're fully, they get fully ramped within 90 days. But first 30 days, I would just say is have a plan, have it mapped out, get them on the phones a little bit early, but not full time. You got to leave enough classroom work where I can dial for a couple hours. Then let's go talk about it and listen to those calls as a group. What did we learn? And you got to make it fun. Everyone's going to remember their training and onboard experience, and they're going to decide in that first 30 days of onboarding, is this where I want to be for the future? How embracive was this culture? Was it fun? Was it learning? Was it detailed? Did I get enough support? There's a lot that goes into it. I could dive into any part of that a little bit deeper.
So as a startup founder, where we recently onboarded our first 2 sales reps full time, and I think I hear I totally get this idea of process and documentation and have a clear breakdown and certification. And on the other side, I know, having just gone through this process, the reality is, day 1 we had this plan, and then suddenly 2 hours into the day I got pulled into something else, and I was previously mainly focused on go-to-market, and so I basically just had to say, all right guys, dive into the product, start making calls and figure it out.
Yeah,
and
you're being scrappy.
Our team did a kick-ass job in the first couple weeks already. It was probably half self-training and ramping and just meeting folks and leading their own process, and half me shadowing. I'm curious, for when you work with a Series A startup, what do you think is actually realistic for that stage versus, I'm guessing, I could see later stage this idea of certification, documentation, a very kind of robust process when you actually have a sales enablement team.
Yeah, 100%. I think earlier you're referencing us going from 5 to 400. You got to have a really detailed, buttoned-up process to make sure that you're nailing that onboarding and delivery. Yes, much different than maybe a startup that's being scrappy, that's still founder-led. You don't have a dedicated, in an ideal world, in a high-velocity sales machine that's non-startup, you'd have a dedicated enablement and trainer and people that are dedicated to that onboarding experience. If you're kind of still founder-led, founder doing the training and onboarding, 100%, you're going to get pulled in a lot of different directions, and you got to be scrappy. So I think, for you though, I think what led to a lot of your success is it sounds like you hired the right profiles. If you're willing to say like, hey, here's this, take this with it and run with it and be able to do a little bit on your own and be able to, here's some initiatives, you go do it. And it worked out really well. Sounds like you got, some quality new hires there as well too. And you have a good environment, you have a good structure. Now, could you do that with 100 reps or a training class of 50 and hire 50 and train them that way every other month? That's when you get to scalability problems.
How fast do you typically find, if you're being like totally honest, how fast do you know a rep's not going to work out?
Ooh, this is a sensitive one.
Let's hear the candid Butch take.
I would say people make mistakes by jumping to conclusions too quickly. I have a long history of, 10 years ago, I would have said within a month or so, or a couple weeks. That's really not the case. Over time, what you see is there are certain light bulb moments. Like really, if you have a great process and machine building, you should be able to fully ramp a rep within 90 days. And it's by that month 4 or so that you really get a good picture. Now, look, if someone's not coachable immediately, I know they're not going to work out. But if someone's just like, man, they have intangibles, they're a hard worker, they're competitive, they want it, they're coachable, but they're just not getting deals and it's just not clicking, but they sound good and they sound personal. Like I look for, it's hard to give you a definitive answer in that, Riley. I don't think anyone can say just a couple of weeks. I could say that if they give extreme red flags. Obviously, if someone gives some extreme red flags, you could write the book on them in a week or two of like, wow, they are not good for our culture. They are not coachable. But how soon, if they're kind of checking boxes, but just not clicking, I would say typically month 3 or 4. There's been a lot of people that I've trained over the years. I thought, man, they just aren't going to work out. But in like month 4 or so, a light bulb clicks. There was this one moment where they got a deal and got the confidence, and then they end up becoming a top rep. Some people are slow learners, and
it kind of feels like I'm thinking about your the framework. Like it's almost sort of like if you see them failing on one of the 3 core competencies, that feels like a no-brainer maybe to say, okay, they just like aren't right. They just don't have the work ethic, or they're not coachable. But if they have the right ingredients, but you just aren't actually seeing like the output or the results yet, it sounds like that maybe is the thing that you would say you would want to wait maybe 3 months or something to see. Is that fair?
Yeah. So let me get really real, really fast. Yeah. I take it personal when you hire someone. If you don't believe in someone, don't fucking hire them. And at the minute you put your name on someone saying, they check these intangible boxes for me, I want them on my team, you owe it to them to make them succeed, barring any red flags, like they go off hinge or something, or don't show up to work. Like barring an extreme scenario or red flag, don't hire them if you're not going to commit to their success. So like when I hire someone, it's on me to develop them. It is on me to make it work. It is on me to make them better. That's why I'm a freaking coach. Like I am there to coach you, to make you better. You got to be coachable. You got to have a good work ethic. You got to have a growth mindset. But barring you have those things, and I committed to you and I hired and I'm investing in you, I'm going to make it work. And if it's month 2 or month 3 and just things aren't clicking, that just means I got to work harder. And I got to train some different. Not everyone learns the same way. I got to think of a different approach. But companies write the book too fast. Sales reps, this is not everyone's a quick learner. Like I just a cold calling machine from day one, and some people take a little bit longer term to learn, but once they get it, once they have confidence, then they're a railroad track ahead, and like they're a machine, and they have a lot of confidence. They feel good. Sales is mental, and you just need those light bulb moments. If I can just somewhere by month 3 or month 4 get a light bulb moment, it's great if I get it sooner. But I take it on me. Now, if they just show that they're not coachable, this goes back to having a proven process. If you have a proven process, it's gonna work as long as someone is coachable and has the growth mindset and all the other intangibles. So I just, not everyone works out, but if you're gonna hire someone, I would not be trying to just means you got to work harder to develop.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think don't have anything else on hiring besides I'd love to circle back to one other question on the hiring side of things. I think we're probably good on the onboarding side. When it comes to hiring, we talked about the three main items like you look for in a person. I'm curious just from like a literal background profile when we think specifically about high velocity sales, what sort of backgrounds do you look for thinking about specifically these like sort of fast sales cycles?
I don't want to be too narrow-minded because there are people that don't always fit these buckets that are phenomenal. But sometimes, I'm not putting things in just one profile here, but some type of for example, like competitiveness, if that was the bonus one. But sports, when people typically have some type of sports background, I'm just correlating this. You could do this with things that are non-sports. But someone that played baseball their whole life or played it in college or whatever, they have a sports background. There is an element to teamwork. There's an element to work ethic. There's an element to putting in things to be good and be competitive, to want to win, a culture perspective. So that there's some things that even on a sports background that could fit certain intangibles. But, really it's difficult to have a background because there's more personality traits that I care about that aren't necessarily background related. Like a lot of companies, look, I'm looking to hire SDRs, so I need someone with cold calling experience. Okay, well, if you have a great sales process and you're great at teaching and coaching, you don't need someone with sales experience. You need someone who's just hungry and motivated and wants the future ahead of them and will work their butt off every day and is coachable. And maybe they didn't have that. I wasn't super competitive in high school, and I wasn't super ambitious or driven. No, for some reason
were you selling cars in high school, or was that after high school?
Right after. Look, I was like a C student in high school, and just didn't. I did like a couple weeks of junior college, and it didn't work out. Dropped out. So I'm like 18, about to be 19. I had a dorm, but got kicked out of junior college. I'm back at my parents' house. And I'm thinking my dad's probably looking at me like, I have this kid, all of my other children are college graduates and being successful. Here's my youngest who just dropped out of junior college, didn't do great in high school, wasn't this super competitive person. I had some sales stuff in as a kid where I was good at communicating and stuff and persuasive, but I wasn't super ambitious. And it wasn't till something clicked of I'm out on my own. I know I can, I should do something. I started working at Best Buy, and that was my first sales job. And I worked at Best Buy for 6 months, and I'm selling stuff not on a commission basis. Then I realized I should be selling stuff on a commission basis and applied to a local car dealership, and the rest is history. But it didn't click with me until I was 19 years old, where I'm I didn't have the background, I didn't fit the profile, but in my interview process at the car dealership, I just had intangibles. And I remember my interview process where I told the manager, I was like, is this your sales board? Had all the car sales reps and had all their tick marks for all the cars they sold that month. And he's like, yeah, that's our sales leader. And I was like, if you hire me, you're going to need a bigger board than that.
Let's go.
And
what did they say back?
He hired me. He says, then let's see it. And the car business is a whole other, could be a whole other podcast, because I had to go in and learn things that separated myself from every other car salesperson. But to answer your question, it's not as much as about backgrounds. It is about, I'm a little unorthodox, but I look for characteristics, going back to those intangibles. Can they tell me some experiences or stories? And maybe it's tied to a background. Maybe it's something they accomplished in college. Maybe it's something that they were a part of when they volunteered for a nonprofit or something like that. There's got to be some things that I can tie things to, those attributes and characteristics.
I think from our conversation so far, it's been really interesting hearing how you think about the role of the manager post onboarding and what really they should be doing. And so let's actually start there. I'm curious, once someone is like gone through the normal onboarding, what does day-to-day look like for continuously training and leveling up your sales team?
Yeah, believe it or not, when I talk to companies, this is the one part that most of them get wrong. And that is, if you have a sales manager or sales leader, that manager, let's say, is managing a team of reps. That sales leader, two things. One, that sales leader need to have experience selling that product. That can come of one of two ways. Either they were a salesperson at one point in time selling that product at a high level and got promoted internally, which we highly recommend. Or two, they were an outside hire that had sales management experience, were brought in to be the new sales manager. Even then, when you're bringing in an outside hire, they need to get on the phones full time for a period of time to unlock, to show that consistency. So you need a manager that has been in the trenches and sold a product, because when they're coaching reps, they want that consistency that, hey, you did it, you lived it, you did it on process, and you succeeded, and you're coaching me how to do it. There's an element of like, you've done it and you've accomplished it, so you're coaching me and I should listen to you type thing. But the second thing is, where companies really get it wrong, is we have this philosophy that we've just proven over the past decade is managers should spend 90% of their day coaching to a sales process, and nothing
90%?
is more 90%, which means all the bullshit administrative work and company meetings and like sitting and hiring goals and things like, if that takes up the 90%, you are not focused on high velocity sales. There is nothing more important than developing your salespeople, coaching to process, helping them close deals, literally nothing. Because if you're not breaking down forecasts and sales goals and crushing those goals and barriers and knocking down walls, none of the other administrative stuff matters. So like, people should have their lanes, their zones of genius. Like having a manager with high sales IQ that's in the trenches, coaching reps, listening to calls, giving them feedback, jumping on calls themselves, talking to customers, help close deals, talking about pipeline, like managing, okay, what are we doing here? Constantly giving feedback, whether it's live on the call, coaching them through the call, whether it's post-call. Reps learn differently. Some people like feedback in the moment. Some people like feedback when the call is done and they digest that better. But you're all day, every day should be about coaching reps, making them better. You should be working on your pitch, your craft, your tonality, your speed, and all of that is, all goes into coaching. So 90% of your day should coaching to a process, coaching to a rep, helping them close a deal, and then the other 10% for the other stuff. All the other responsibilities need to be delegated to other people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so who does? It sounds great in theory, but who actually does like the all the other work that I think a sales manager typically does?
Well, there's a difference. Like, you just got to find administrative people or ops people to do the things, and you got to also feel like, well, how high value is this manager? There's trade-offs. If my manager does this, what are they not doing? And for us, history shows that there is no greater trade-off than getting less deals and developing reps to perform at a high level. It is much more costly to have a high valued manager with developing reps who are high value, with customers that are high value. Take a time away from that because they're sitting in a company meeting talking about marketing or talking about forecasts or goals. Like, minimize the distraction for a manager where it's all about making reps better. Like, think of like professional athletes. Professional athletes are training all the time. They're practicing their craft. They're studying film. They're watching tape. They're practicing. Then they're watching the tape of the practices. Then they're in game. Then they watch the tape of the game. They're literally best in the world for a reason. Sales in general, companies do it wrong because they're freaking lazy. And it's like, if you want a world-class high-velocity sales machine, you're practicing all the time. You're coaching all the time. You're in it all the time. And it's like, yeah, as a manager, it's hard. It's hard to be giving my reps feedback nonstop, listening to as many calls as I can, jumping on calls, helping my reps close deals. Like, yeah, it's probably more comfortable to be sitting in an office in a meeting talking about budget or hiring or forecasts or administrative stuff. Like, that's not what they were hired to do.
Love it. Well, in the last few minutes, we're going to transition to actually a rapid fire round. So we've talked a bunch about hiring, onboarding, and training. Would love to talk about a few just rapid fire questions. So limit your answers to these, like just 1 sentence answers, and we'll just.
This is tough. I'm a rambler, as you see on this.
Okay, first question. What inning are we in vertical SaaS? Feels like in 2010s there were a bunch of companies founded. 2020s now we have a new wave of vertical AI. Are there still more good vertical SaaS ideas out there, or do you think we're starting to hit saturation?
I'm very untraditional. I don't know. I still think we're at the midway point.
Yeah, you still think there's like a bunch more vertical SaaS kind of untapped ideas or things out there?
I would say it's every time I go to the no and there's probably less, I keep getting surprised by new things that keep popping up. So I don't know if I'm the best to answer that. I'm a little more old school, and I still think that there's plenty more vertical SaaS opportunities.
What's your go-to opener in a cold call?
With a gatekeeper or a decision maker?
Let's go through both. So first, gatekeeper.
Yeah, with a gatekeeper, we wrote this. There's a specific art to getting through gatekeepers, and one is keeping it really simple and assumptively, like using just the first name of the person that you're trying to get a hold of. So if I'm calling Orbital and I'm trying to get a hold of Riley, the CEO and co-founder of Orbital, I'm not going to say things like, hi, this is Butch Hodson, because first of all, if you have to say your last name as well, you're not on a first name basis with the CEO. Mm-hmm. Is Riley available? That would flag you as a salesperson. So keep it really simple. Use your first name, and then use the power of just in a conversation ender. Sort of sound like this. Gatekeeper says, hello, welcome to Orbital. And I'd say, yes, Riley, please. Just tell him, this is Butch. Thank you. That's it. Just, this is Butch. Thank you. And I'm saying, if you just tell them my name is Butch, if you just tell them it's Butch, thank you.
Right.
They're assuming, there's a whole strategy and art behind it. But when you say more to a gatekeeper, you explain more. You're a salesperson. For a decision maker, you want to get to the point really quickly. Introduce yourself. Get to the point of why you're calling, and make it really easy for them to give you a minute or two to listen to you. So you got to lead with some credibility. I usually ask a typical question, like, if I'm calling with Orbital, like, hey, Riley, this is Butch Hodson. I'm with the company Orbital. Are you familiar with Orbital, Riley? It kind of is the icebreaker versus, hey, Riley, how's your day going? How are you doing today? Which immediately flags you as a salesperson. So when talking to a decision maker, get to the point really quickly, really fast, lead with value. Don't draw it out. They're limited time. You can show respect and build rapport by getting to the point quickly and catching their interest early.
Love it. Cool. Next, curious, in 5 years from now, do you think cold calling will still be a thing?
5 years from now, yes. 10 years from now, I'm not sure.
What tip would you give your like kind of new grad self going into sales for the first time?
I would just say put in the work. You got to have a really positive mindset. Focus on your mental health as much as your physical health. In any new venture, as you're learning and growing, you're going to see a lot of failure. And mental health is so undervalued and underappreciated. If you are mentally strong and mentally tough and mentally happy and a positive person, your life is more impactful and changes your success. So I would say have a growth mindset and focus on your mental health as well and positivity.
Love it. What put
in the work? Nothing overrides putting in the work.
I totally agree. What's one vertical SaaS company you're really excited about right now?
Well, do I name drop some customers of ours? We have a bunch of them. Phil Pulse is a company that I'm really excited about.
Just recently, also an Orbital customer.
Yes, they're just phenomenal, and they're such a great team. Really excited for their future and the industry that they're competing against as well too.
Awesome. And then last question as we wrap up, what's the best way to get in touch with you and or Sellfire if folks are interested in connecting?
Well, it's not
obviously not LinkedIn,
but Sellfire, I would say go through our company Sellfire, go through our website. We have an awesome community called Sellfire Connections, which is connections.sellfire. You can look it up and join the community of salespeople and leaders, which is really awesome. You can also reach out. We have a landing page on the book on our website as well too, which I can get you info on. The best way is through Sellfire. We also have Sellfire LinkedIn and whatnot, so that you can go through that as well.
Great. Well, Butch, really appreciate the time today. Thanks for all of the wisdom. And thanks to everyone for tuning into the Vertical SaaS Go-to-Market Playbook.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Good seeing you, Riley.